Hi, today we're going to talk about 3 foods to avoid if you've got dampness. I'm Marie Hopkinson and this is the Chinese Medicine Podcast, the place where you can come to learn about Chinese medicine, making it really easy and simple for you to understand it, learn it, use it in your everyday life. So what foods should you avoid? Let's say you've got a diagnosis of dampness. Now, if you're not sure about anything I'm talking about in this video, click the links below and that'll give you some other videos that I've done on this same kind of topic to kind of give you some further understanding about it. So I'm assuming that you're clicking on this video because you know what dampness is, or you've been given that diagnosis by your practitioner, and they've said, oh, you've got a weak spleen qi with damp. You might have damp cold or damp heat, or some kind of damp, or they've said you've got damp in your channels, or damp is causing your problem in some way, and you want to try to help the treatment that you're already having. You might be having herbs or acupuncture, and you want to try to help that treatment with diet. So what 3 foods should you avoid if you've got dampness? Now, number 1 is processed grains. Now, not grains in general. So like processed grains means that grain has been ground into a flour, and then it's been cooked into a bread, or it's been cooked into a cake, or it's been had several layers of processing. So any layer of processing that you do to a food increases its propensity towards dampness. So it's already a dampening food, and then you add more things to it that are also dampening, then the end result is something even more dampening. So sometimes having that raw ingredient isn't as damaging to your body, or it's not as dampening to your body as like a combination of different foods, or the way it's been processed, or the way it's been cooked or presented, as in it's not cooked if it's raw, something like that. But definitely processed grains is something that has a tendency to produce dampness. Now, I've just done a video about different kinds of grains, so you can click on that one in the description below. I'll put a link, and you can click on that to kind of understand. There are some, not all grains are as dampening as each other. So there are some grains that are better for your body if you have dampness and you need that source of carbohydrate in your diet. So processed grains, try not to have too much of that. So I'm sorry about that, because those are the yummy foods like pasta and bread and cakes and things like that. Which brings me to the second one, which is sugar. Now, sugar in its raw form, as in sugar cane sugar, is the worst type of sugar. It's really unnecessary for our body to consume the quantities of sugar that we just are presented to us in everyday food. So any food that comes from a packet, you want to look on that packet and see what are the ingredients. If you're not doing that already, a lot of people watching this video are probably already health conscious types of people, so maybe you're already doing that. That's great if you are. But lots of the times we just, these are convenience foods, and we sometimes buy them in a hurry. Now, if you're doing that every so often, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're doing that every day and you're eating from packets all the time, are you aware of what's in the foods? Are you aware that on an ingredient list that the highest quantity of the ingredients are listed first? So they don't necessarily list the percentages of ingredients. They will in the breakdown on the side where it says carbohydrates and fats and nutritional qualities of the foods. It will give you a percentage or a number breakdown. But so let's say a food has let's say it's a cake and it's got flour and it's got wheat, wheat flour. It's got some sort of like preservative or something like that. Then those things are tending towards the end because they're smaller amounts of the food. So if sugar is like the second, third, fourth ingredient, if the sugar's the 4th ingredient on a list of 10 ingredients, there's quite a lot of sugar in that food probably. So especially if it's number 1 or 2. So be aware of sugar in your foods, that hidden sugars, even foods that would seem savory, like a lot of processed foods, trans fats containing foods, they have sugar in them. So if you're avoiding sugar, then by vicariously you're kind of avoiding a lot of these other types of products, snack foods and things like that. If you were to just simply become sugar free, now I've done that for many years. I had 2 years of my life where I didn't eat any sugar, and I only ate sugar on my birthday and Christmas. Now on Christmas I would have had sugar around for like sort of 2 weeks, and on my birthday I remember having a birthday cake and eating it and just thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so, like, I felt sick, like I wanted that cake because I was like thinking, oh yeah, I haven't had sugar for ages and I haven't had cake, and it was just like it's overwhelming, the amount of sugar that's in foods. And what happens is the more and more you eat sugar, the more you need that sugar to get that same hit. So if you just go cold turkey and go sugar free, then when you do have something sweet again, you'll really notice the sweetness of it, and you won't need as much to actually satisfy that craving for sugar that you have. And actually what I found when I quit sugar was that the cravings for sugar were a lot less over time. Like the first few weeks, the first few days are really bad, and then it gets better and better the longer you don't have it. So it does get easier. I wouldn't say I'm completely sugar free now, but I don't eat as much sugar. I'm just like not as strict. I wouldn't say I'm completely sugar free. So if I go out for dinner, I may have some cake or something like that. But I don't eat much sugar. Like over. I certainly, since I've done that sugar free period, I don't eat as much sugar in my diet as I ever used to before. Once you do that type of diet, it really makes you aware of it. So if that's something that's a challenge for you, then it might be a good idea just to go for a period of time, even if you just say I'm just going to go a day or a couple of days and not have sugar and see how you go. And it makes you, one, more aware of where sugars are in your foods. Makes you really aware of cooking processes and that you need to be in charge of your own processes, not just buying things from packets and cans. Because there's a lot of hidden sugars in them. Even tomato sauce has sugar in it. There's a lot of stuff. Now, one thing you could try if you're really desperate to have sweet foods, or you're really struggling, is to substitute the sugar with something else sweet, like honey or maple syrup, for a time. Wouldn't say do this forever, because again, it's a sweet flavour, and that can also be dampening. Now, honey and maple syrup are not as dampening, and they're certainly not as bad for your body as refined sugars. And what I'm saying here is kind of a guideline. It's not saying never have these foods, but if you do have dampness and you take these foods out of your diet and then you start to feel better, then you're going to know, okay, these foods are actually, especially if your symptoms go away. So if you have cloudy headedness and you have that sort of feeling of a foggy head, you just feel like a misty mind, that's a very common symptom of dampness. A heavy feeling in your body, like your limbs feel heavy, your body feels heavy. You just sort of feel lethargic, wanting to lie down just because your body feels heavy. That kind of symptom is commonly associated with dampness in Chinese medicine. And so, processed grains and sugar are the first two things I would say. Avoid those foods. And the third one is dairy products. Now, not all dairy is as dampening, again, similar to the grains. So things that are fermented are less dampening than things that are not fermented in dairy. So things like yogurt is a lot less dampening than milk. And then things that become richer and more creamier and more thicker definitely are more dampening. So if you love cheese, let's say, I love cheese, unfortunately. Cheese is a delicious part of life. It's about the quantity of cheese you have and the regularity of cheese that you have. And also in terms of if you choose a richer, creamier types of cheese, like a feta cheese that's that Persian feta that's delicious, it's all sort of contained in oil, that is a lot more dampening than a vintage aged cheddar kind of cheese, that kind of thing. Those cheese wheels that are creamy cheese inside and things like that making me hungry now. Those cheese dips, they're much more dampening than an aged cheddar, and it depends on what you're doing with this cheese. Are you eating it all the time? Are you having a cheese platter every day? Are you putting a lot of cheese in your food just for the flavour, just because you it's just part of how what you do? So avoiding too much cheese would be better to do that. So certainly richer products like dairy. Now, some people find if they just completely go off dairy, they do feel a lot better. Dairy's not completely, dairy has some nourishment properties in it for you, and that's something to consider when we're talking about dampness. Foods that produce dampness tend to be richer and more nourishing. So there are some people that need those kinds of foods. And the thing with Chinese medicine is everyone's unique, everyone's different, and a Chinese medicine practitioner is going to take that stuff into account. And so really it's the diet advice that we give you is not like a one size fits all, or it doesn't mean that you have to live like that forever. It just means that sometimes you want to treat a particular aspect of your body or focus in on a particular aspect of your body. So if you have dampness and you think, okay, I just want to see if these foods, if I can live without these foods for one thing, and see if I feel healthier with it. And then once that dampness goes away, it doesn't mean that you can't have those foods again. You may be able to have some of those foods again. So the strategy of treating someone who's got dampness, one is, okay, we want to remove the source of the dampness. Now, if the source is the foods, then, and your practitioner's told you that, they said the source is the foods, you need to remove those foods, then I would do this. I would definitely try to do this stuff as much as you can, because the acupuncture treatment, the herbs treatment, that may make you feel better. But what the job of that treatment is to strengthen your body, particularly the yang, so the fire, the functional ability of your body to kind of withstand the difficulty of digesting that damp food. So if you took away the difficulty of the food and you made the food easier to digest and less dampening, and at the same time then you strengthen your body with the herbs and with the acupuncture, then that would make it a lot like, then you'll get a better treatment outcome. So the symptoms will essentially go away much quicker than someone who's continuously flooding their body with a lot of dampening foods. Now, I get that sometimes people just don't want to stop eating those foods, or for lifestyle reasons, it can be difficult. Like, foods are linked to a lot of, there's a lot of complexity in foods, and one aspect is to say, oh, well, just stop doing it because you should stop doing it. But there's great complexity in diet, and it depends on your individual circumstances. You may be cooking for a large family of people or for a group of people, and it may be difficult for you to cook different meals for different people, and it might be something like that. It might be a cost thing, and also the lack of knowledge of how to do these foods. And so what you do is you end up just being very hungry, go to the supermarket and you just buy a lot of packet foods or things because you just don't have the time to cook these foods and to actually learn how to do that. So I understand that, look, it's a process of doing that. And what I'm trying to present in these videos is, look, this is the optimal thing in Chinese medicine. This is what we think is the best thing for you. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I know the standard's here and I might be here and I'm working my way towards that. And that's a better thing than someone who just doesn't even know the standard, doesn't even understand that, or just is sort of like moving away from that optimal ability of what, or that optimal ideal of what the foods and what your diet should be like. In a very general sense, so these are the three things you should avoid, definitely. So the processed grains, the sugar, and the dairy. And then in a general sense, if you adhere to a clear, bland diet, that is a very simple diet. It's very easy to digest. It makes things easier for your spleen and stomach, your digestive energy to kind of work. Now, I'm going to put the links in the description below of the different videos. If you haven't seen the mostly cooked foods video, that's the number one video I'd recommend you watch, because it will explain in much more detail why we should eat cooked foods, why we should adhere to a clear, bland diet, and then it kind of gives you the basis of, well, why does our body even get dampness in the first place? So Chinese medicine believes that our body should be able to withstand various different things that are around us. It should be able to withstand the environment. It should be able to withstand the environment we put into our body, which is our diet, to a certain extent. And that's why, look, some people are just born with a different kind of constitution, and they can tolerate what Chinese medicine would consider a terrible diet, and they don't seem to have any health problems because their constitution is so strong, got so much yang, they kind of like, in a way, their metabolism fire doesn't tend to dwindle and go out or go down. And the ability of our body to do what it does is not just it's based on our constitution, what you're born with, but it's also based on our circumstances. So sometimes you can have a particular metabolism and eat a particular diet and eat a particular way and not put on any weight, not be not have adverse health problems and things like that, or let's say problems that you know about, and then you feel pretty healthy and fit. But then circumstances can happen. You can go through a very stressful period of time. That could lead to problems with sleeping, not being able to sleep well, that kind of stuff. And so what happens is, like, those circumstances compound, and all the while you're still eating that same diet, which it wouldn't be considered to be that healthy and that supportive to your body. And so then you start to notice health problems. And then on top of that, all the while in our life, we're aging, which is just declining the yang of our body as we go on. And so that's why things happen as we get older. You notice more health problems than when you were younger, in general, because we didn't have the wear and tear on our body and things like that. So I don't want this video to sound like a doom and gloom. Look, there are lots of things you can do, and it's, in one sense, I understand that it's hard to change. It is a hard thing to change, but on the other sense, a lot of that idea is in your mind, and I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in other patients and people. When you put your mind to it and you really want to do something, then you'll get the outcome. You'll make a way. You'll find a way to get what you want. because you really, really want it. And so I hope that it doesn't get to the point for you or, you know, people watching this video that it gets so bad that you have to change. Like, it's better if you can understand what's the optimal things to do and not let it get so bad that, you know, then you're forced to kind of change. It's good to, like, because you can experience a lot of benefit in your body by adhering to a healthy diet. And yeah, so hopefully this video has been useful to you. Pop a link in the pop a link. You can pop a link if you want. Pop a comment in the description in the comments below. And yeah, look, I'm really happy that you've watched this video, and thanks for people commenting and subscribing to the channel, and share the video if you find this helpful to you. And